Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a My 2 cent video for this week. And for this week, the week of January 12th through 18th, and we got 6 actual stories to cover, though. Normally, I cut it down recently to 5 to make it a little bit easier, though. But this one, the 6th one, I had to put up because apparently we got the NPD charts for December 2019, though, and some of them are kind of interesting. We also unfortunately got hit with several delays from Square Enix to CD Projekt Red, which for some people are probably going to be a little bit disappointed in that. And we've learned about 2 games. One we know for certain that's coming to the Nintendo Switch that, well, caused a controversy for some Zelda fans who didn't like it, to one person smashing their PS4 out of protest. I don't know why that person did that, though. To one game rumored to be coming to the Nintendo Switch, and some decisions made by Microsoft and Sony that, well, for Sony, questions the future of E3. For Microsoft, is sort of a interesting, or should I say kind of a ballsy approach they're taking for the upcoming launch for the Xbox Series X, their next console and all. Before we get started, let's go down the quick My 2 cent that kind of caught my attention and all that stuff. And the first ones are obviously new trailers for Resident Evil 3, the remake, and Doom Eternal came out, though. I seen the trailer. Resident Evil 3 remake looks slick. I am looking forward to that one. As far as with Nemesis in it, though, obviously, like Tyrants in the Resident Evil 2 remake, any strategy you had against Nemesis in the old PlayStation or GameCube version of Resident Evil 3, probably gonna have to throw that out of the window and come up with a new strategy, to be exact. And I'm curious to see if dealing with Nemesis is going to be worse than what it was with dealing with Tyrant in the Resident Evil 2 remake. As for Doom Eternal, again, I'm looking forward to that. The good news is it's coming out March 20th. The somewhat good but bad news, however, is that it's still coming to the Nintendo Switch, but unfortunately, Switch owners are going to have to wait a little bit longer for that one, which is a little bit unfortunate, though, for those who are thinking about getting the Switch version. We also learned that the developers of the Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle are now hiring. I think it's Ubisoft Milan, if I'm saying the name correctly, though. No word on what exactly that game is. We don't know, or if it's coming to the Nintendo Switch. Although, I will say, I definitely would be open if it's a sequel to Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, but we'll have to wait and see what that one is. We also learned that Saints Row 4 Re-elected could be heading to the Nintendo Switch, and this was posted, I believe, on a French retail site before it was taken down. Right now, we don't know if it's coming or not, but I would say odds are more than likely we'll see it come to Nintendo Switch. Hopefully, if it does come to Nintendo Switch, not only does it have all the DLCs or everything like that, but hopefully lessons were learned in terms of bringing Saints Row the third package, to the Nintendo Switch, and this time the performance is better, though. Although the game is certainly better now with a lot of the updates, the way it was launched, in fact that we had to wait for an update and all that stuff, was, in my opinion, inexcusable and unacceptable on that. So hopefully this time around they do a better job with Saints Row 4, and if it's the re-election edition, I think that's great. We also learned, after rumors about this one and a recent spotting on a ratings board for this one, we now know that Metro Redux is actually coming to the Nintendo Switch. We learned that 4A Games actually supposedly developed the game in-house. It wasn't like handed to a port house like Virtuos or Iron Galaxy or Panic Button or anything like that. And supposedly it's going to be both games in one cartridge, though. So hopefully 4A Games can stick true to their words, and if the game does well, depending on if they can pull it off, it could maybe open the door to probably Metro Exodus coming to the Nintendo Switch. I know it sounds unlikely, and that is a possibility, but we've seen impossible ports come to the Nintendo Switch: Doom, Wolfenstein 2, Youngblood, and Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. So I can't completely rule out Metro Exodus coming to the Nintendo Switch, but we'll have to wait and see. In the meantime, I mean, Metro Redux is the one coming to Nintendo Switch, and it's coming out in February, though. We also learned that there will be a new fighting style in the Switch version of Devil May Cry 3, which allows you to switch to different fighting styles on the fly, from like Trickster to Gunslinger and all that stuff. So that certainly should come handy, especially for those who are planning on getting the Switch version. Although I'm still a little disappointed that Capcom has not put in basically do a physical version and all that stuff. So I'm not a little happy about that. And we also learned of Smash Brothers also got basically some updates as well. The first one is the characters from Fire Emblem Three Houses are basically going to be in the upcoming Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Basically, they're part of the fighter package and so forth. And supposedly, like I said, it's the main characters from Fire Emblem Three Houses. And we also learned that new costumes for your Mii fighter, from All-Star from Assassin's Creed to the Rabbids, to even having your character dress up as Cuphead, that's kind of interesting. And finally, last but not least, with Fire Emblem, we now learn that they will get a fourth supposedly a fourth house in the upcoming DLCs, which certainly is nice, especially for those who got the expansion pack for Fire Emblem Three Houses. Though there's no doubt about that game is doing very well, and no doubt that Fire Emblem is now probably going to be a staple as part of like Nintendo's franchise, so forth. I mean, going forward and all. Okay, with the quick My 2 cent part out of the way, we'll get started with our first one. And this one has to do with the Xbox Series X. Now, I'm sure most of you remember during the Game Awards, Microsoft announced their next console called the Series X. Basically, it looks like a tower. Some make it look like a tower. Some make it look like a refrigerator and all that stuff. But in either case, they were the first one to reveal what their actual next generation console looks like. We're still waiting for Sony and all that stuff, but it's only a matter of time before we hear them announcing what their system looks like and all that. But the interesting announcement that has come out from Microsoft is that apparently, at least for a while though, there's not going to be any exclusives during launch. In an article from The Verge, it reads that, quote, Microsoft's next-generation console, the Xbox Series X, will break with traditions by not launching with exclusive games only playable on the new hardware. Instead, Microsoft is leaning into the X-Play Anywhere strategy and fully support backwards compatibility moving forward. According to Microsoft Studios head Matt Bootsy, who spoke with UK gaming site MCV, over the next 2 years, all of our games, sort of like PC, will play up and down that family of devices, Bootsy said. We want to make sure that if someone invests in the Xbox between now and Series X, that they feel that they made a good investment and that we're committed to them with content. This does seem to imply that there will be at a point in which new first-party games designed for the Series X won't run on standard Xbox One, but that it would appear to be a way out after launch. This isn't a drastic departure from what Microsoft's been hinting as of months now. The company has said it has plans to make all first-party games on Xbox playable on Windows 10, and it's part of its X-Play Anywhere initiatives. The company also said back in June at E3, before the official Series X reveal, and when the new console we know only as Project Scarlet, that its next-generation console will also play Xbox One game. The same is true with Sony's PlayStation 5, with Sony earlier this year that its new console will be backwards compatible with PS4 games. Sony, however, has not said that it won't have games launched with the PS5 that can only be playable on that device. But this is the first time Microsoft has explicitly that its new console won't be launched with a dedicated / a first-party exclusive, as has been the case for pretty much every new console generation for the last couple of decades. The biggest first-party Xbox Series exclusive, Halo Infinite, was already confirmed to run on both next-generation Xbox and Xbox One, as well as Windows 10, but Bootsy's here is clarification that that it will be the case for every new Xbox game going forward for at least a year after the Series X launch. So this is kind of interesting that Microsoft is taking this kind of approach in a way, in terms of basically saying that there won't be any exclusives for that system, at least at the moment, and all that stuff. And while I understand they want people, who don't feel left out if they're playing, who have invested in the Xbox One and all, I also think, and I kind of agree with some people saying this, it's kind of a bit risky, because if a game like, say, Halo Infinite is going to also be available on the Xbox One, then it almost feels like at this time, or at least for like a year or two, there's no reason to pick up an Xbox Series X at this moment. If the games are for now coming over to like Xbox One X or Xbox One or Xbox One S and all that stuff, then to me, I feel like, what's the point picking up an Xbox Series X at this time if you're going to get all the games on your other system? So I think it's kind of odd that Microsoft is doing this, but there are those who do agree with this approach, and some are calling this a pro-consumer position. So we'll have to wait and see how this plays out, and whether or not that has any impact on when the sales of the Xbox Series X, when that launches in this holiday season. So overall, I think it's an odd way that Microsoft is doing, and not having like first-party exclusives for Xbox Series X seems like an odd choice, and it just makes it come off as there's no reason to pick up an Xbox Series X. But we'll see what happens when the system launches. Maybe this might be a smart strategy for Microsoft, or it could backfire. So we'll have to wait and see when this holiday season comes, and see what kind of impact this will have when the system finally launches. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 2, and we're going to look at a decision Sony has recently made that has sort of raised questions about the future of E3. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one we're going to be taking a look at Sony and their decision not to basically attend E3 this year and all. Now, when it comes to Sony E3, their history has been, been pretty good. I mean, they first entered the market in 1995 when they showed off the release of the PlayStation, but most people remember, some people will remember them from 2013 when they introduced the PS4, and a lot of the decisions that they made were pretty much, at that time, a slap in the face to Microsoft and some of the decisions they made in terms of some of their decisions for the Xbox One, such as the whole use game, you have to be on, log in a certain amount of times and all that stuff. It basically rubbed the people a lot in the wrong way, and it definitely hurt the Xbox One, and it's one of the reasons why the PS4 has been so dominant this generation and all that stuff. Although I will say the Xbox One has kind of bounced back thanks to some of the decisions Phil Spencer has made. Not 100% perfect, but definitely put the Xbox One at least somewhat in a better position than it was at launch, but nowhere near the level as the success of the PS4 has. But lately, Sony has sort of made some decisions that sort of raised questions about the future of E3 in general, though. I mean, last year they chose to skip E3 altogether and do their own thing, like we've recently seen with them doing their State of Play, which is sort of their take on what Nintendo does with their Direct. And now this year, especially with the upcoming launch of the PlayStation 5, they're now skipping E3 again this year, though. In an article on Game Industry Buzz, it reads that, quote, PlayStation will miss E3 for a second year in a row. The firm told Game Industry Buzz that it does not feel the vision for the event is right for what it has planned for this year. Excuse me. Instead, it will attend hundreds of consumer events to showcase the upcoming games for PS4 and PS5. And this is what Sony said, quote, "After thoroughly evaluation, SIE, Sony Interactive Entertainment, has decided not to participate in E3 2020, said a spokesperson. We have great respect for the ESA and as an organization, but we do not feel the vision of E3 2020 is the right venue for what we are focused on this year. We will build upon our global event strategy in 2020 by participating in hundreds of consumer events across the globe. Our focus is on making sure fans feel part of the PlayStation family and have access to play their favorite content. We have a fantastic lineup of titles coming to the PS4, and with the upcoming launch of PS5, we are truly looking forward to a year of celebration with our fans." Now, after this article came out, an update was pointed out, and the ESA spokesperson responded to this, and this is what the ESA had to say, saying, quote, "E3 is a signature event celebrated in the video game industry and showcases the people, brands, and innovation redefine entertainment loved by billions of people across the world. E3 2020 will be an exciting, high-energy show featuring new experience, partners, exhibitor space, activations, and programs that will entertain new and ventures attendees alike. Exhibitor interest in our new activities is gaining the attention of brands that view E3 as a key opportunity to connect with video game fans worldwide. Although it's worth pointing out, supposedly ESA is under hot water over supposedly a leak of a lot of, I think, gaming journal press and so forth on that one. So, and some people view this comment as sort of damage controlling the situation. So Sony skipping this year is interesting, and it does kind of raise questions about the future of E3 in general. I mean, it used to be like you build up hype for it to look forward to what they announce and all that stuff. Now with other events going on and with companies like, you know, Sony doing their State of Play, Microsoft doing their Inside Xbox, Nintendo doing with their Direct and all that stuff. I mean, last year Microsoft held their own event. It was around E3, but not at the E3 building. Of course, most people know that with the showing of Cyberpunk 2077 and Keanu Reeves coming up on stage. And Nintendo doing what they view as their digital presentation and their treehouse and all that stuff. It does make you kind of wonder if we're starting to see the beginning of the end of E3. And in a way, I kind of do see that coming. I mean, with Sony now focusing on doing their own thing and gearing up, doing their own approach in terms of gearing up for the launch of the PlayStation 5, it does raise the question about the future of E3. I mean, Nintendo right now seems to be the only one that will be at E3 at the moment, but again, they're doing their own thing with their digital presentation and so forth, and I do wonder if this new approach is really going to get people interested in watching E3 again, especially what the ESA is trying to do. So, overall, I have to say, it's very interesting Sony is not doing a E3 press conference this year at this year's E3 and so forth, and I have a feeling it's only a matter of time before E3 retires completely because of the direction Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo are going in terms of putting out messages of their upcoming release and their upcoming games and so forth. So I think it's only a matter of time before E3 no longer exists, which is kind of sad to a certain degree. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be looking at part 3, which is supposedly a report coming out that we could see the Bioshock series coming to the Nintendo Switch. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at supposedly a report is coming out that the Bioshock series, or at least the first 3 Bioshock games, could be making their way over to the Nintendo Switch. Now, when it comes to first-person shooters, there are several that I like, though. Games like the Metro series is definitely one that I enjoy, especially with its story-driven type of game. From games like, say, the Borderlands series, to even, games like Doom, Wolfenstein, and even games like The Outer Worlds and all that stuff. But another series I also enjoy is the whole Bioshock series, particularly Bioshock 1, 2, and Infinite. With the original 1 and 2, in terms of the City of Rapture, especially with Andrew Ryan's and watching how everything has started to fall apart in that, to the skies up in Colombia and all that stuff, in what basically is a sort of a twisted version of what people view like good old like American lifestyle and that stuff. There's even parts where they praise John Booth, if I'm saying the name correctly, or the person who assassinated Abraham Lincoln, as sort of a hero and all that. So it's kind of interesting to hear that we could see this game coming to the Nintendo Switch if this report is basically true. From an article, while there have been several articles on it, links are in the description though, most of them are pointing to this from a report from Lootpots, and it reads, quote, "It looks as though Bioshock Collection will be coming to the Nintendo Switch at some point in the future, as 4 new Bioshock ratings have popped up on the Taiwanese game rating board. The new listing rating, which comes before any official announcement, reveals that Nintendo Switch owners could soon be playing remastered version of Bioshock 1 and 2 alongside the complete edition of Bioshock Infinite. Among the Switch ratings reads, quote, Bioshock Remaster, Bioshock.to Remaster, Bioshock Infinite The Complete Collection, and Bioshock The Collection. While nothing has been officially confirmed yet, the fact that each game has been given its own rating could suggest that, in addition to buying the entire Bioshock collection, individual titles may be available downloaded separately. Either way, if you're looking to explore the retro futuristic world of Bioshock for the first time, you're pleased to hear that the collection has got you covered, DLCs, and all. News of the Bioshock collection Switch port will surely add additional fuel to the recent rumors of an upcoming Direct. Considering the recent Metro Redux distribution leak, although as mentioned earlier, that has now been confirmed of it coming to the Nintendo Switch. The strangest thing happening with the Pigma 3 website, which it's been reported that's been, I think, shut down or something like that. And a guaranteed Smash Fighter DLC fighter revealed by February, although some of them have already been revealed, such as the main character for Fire Emblem Three Houses. They're saying I'll be hard-pressed not to agree. Bioshock Remaster, Bioshock 2 Remaster, and Bioshock Infinite are heading to the Nintendo Switch at some point in the future. However, if you're looking for pricing and release date, you'll just have to wait until an official announcement is actually made. Now, before I say anything, it's worth pointing out that as of right now, 2K Games has not said anything at this moment, and it is possible this Taiwanese game rating board could be a typo. There's always that possibility. That said, though, given the past games we've seen so far, such as Call Juarez Gunslinger being rated by the ESRB and then officially coming out, to Metro Redux that was recently rated by, I think, the PEG in Europe, that officially has now been confirmed that it's coming out to the Switch. I'm more inclined to believe that more likely this is more than likely confirmed, and that we are going to see it coming to the Switch. Assuming the game does come to the Switch, I am curious to see what kind of approach are we looking at. Are we looking at it as 2K is going to sell each game individually? Is the collection going to be all 3 games and DLCs in one cartridge, which seems like a long shot, but we've seen impossible things happen on the Nintendo Switch before? Or is it going to be like collectors with all the game, each with their separate cartridge and all? As far as the digital download, are each one of these going to be separate downloads and so forth? And of course, who is handling the Switch port? Are these being handled by port houses like, say, Panic Button or Virtuos or Iron Galaxy or any studio that knows how to handle the Switch? Or are we seeing this being handled in the way supposedly 4A Games is handling Metro Redux, in which they're supposedly developing the game in-house for the Switch version? So I'm a little curious if this does exist, how the Switch version is going to be handled. But I will say, I definitely would love to see this happen. The Bioshock series is definitely a favorite in terms of first-person shooters and so forth. So I'm definitely, hopefully they will announce this soon. Although with some of these leaks and all that stuff, it does make you kind of wonder, is Nintendo going to do their direct or anything like that? Are we going to hear a direct soon? Because we're hearing a lot of leaks and all that stuff coming out. But either way, my overall takeaway is that although nothing's been confirmed at this time, I definitely would love to see the Bioshock series come to the Nintendo Switch. And I would be okay with buying each of them individually, providing it's the full complete edition with all their DLCs and so forth. So, yep, I'm hoping this has happened. I would love to see the Bioshock series come to the Nintendo Switch. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 4. And this one has to do with a game known by the name of Genshin Impact that originally rubbed some Nintendo fans or some Zelda fans the wrong way, as some call it as a clone of Zelda and all that stuff. Apparently now it looks like it's coming to the Nintendo Switch. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 4 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at a game that, well, basically pissed off certain Nintendo fans, mostly Zelda fans, although I'm not saying every Zelda fan was upset about this, to one person even smashing their PS4 over this, and that is a game called, if I'm saying the name correctly, Genshin Impact. Now, there have been times where some people look at certain games and see how they draw inspiration or from it, though. One example I could give is Darksiders, for example. There is a lot of times when the game, you can see, definitely draws inspiration, like a lot of the dungeons draw inspiration from the classic, from the Legend of Zelda series, to some of the gameplay mechanics, which feels a little bit of a cross between God of War and, of course, Devil May Cry, to certain games which have now considered like its own I think it's called like a Dark Souls or Souls genre, where they borrow the approach similar to what the Bandai Namco's Dark Souls series. Null is a good example of this, to even the game's Jedi Fallen Order, which many definitely say that has a little bit of a Dark Souls vibe to it as well. But there are times when some people feel that some games are just nothing more than like carbon copies or all that and all that and all. Well, recently the game that was originally supposed to come to just the PS4 and supposedly PC and ISO and Android and all that stuff, well, which is Genshin Impact, now apparently it is going to be coming to the Nintendo Switch as well. In an article from Nintendo Life, excuse me, it reads that, quote, in August of last year, publisher Mihoyo revealed Genshin Impact, an open-world adventure which appears to take a healthy amount of inspiration from The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which to me, I consider it the second best Zelda game, with I view Majora's Mask as my favorite Zelda game of all time. So much so, in fact, that one irate fan got so upset that Sony would choose to promote such a game that he actually smashed up his PS4 in protest, which, if you're asking my opinion on that, I think that was a pretty stupid thing, especially smashing what I think apparently was like $400 and all that stuff, although I'm sure the price has gone down since then and all that. He wasn't the only one who was displeased. Other Zelda fans turned up at the show when Genshin Impact was being demonstrated and held aloft their copy of Breath of the Wild, as well as making rude hand gestures. Long story short, and some of the pictures have come out there, say, as sort of, pardon my language, they show off, they flip the bird or show their middle finger and all that. You could say they were less than impressed with with the studio's effort. We dread to think what those same individuals think now that it has been confirmed that Genshin Impact is also coming to the Switch. Previously planned for a 2020 release, the publisher is now saying a solid release date is to be announced, but to seemingly calm any negative reaction to a delay. It also revealed a new area in the game called Of the Land Amidst Monoliths. Like Breath of the Wild, Genshin Impact is an open-world action-adventure which the player character can explore freely using skills such as climbing or guiding. Another similarity with Nintendo game is a focus on cooking meals, which has both a positive and negative effect on the player's characters. Speaking of which, Genshin Impact offers 30 playable characters, and it's possible to have command up to 4 at any time. A magma series has been running since before the game started development. There's no word on a Western release at this time of writing, but what do you mean? Okay, sorry, I read that wrong. As of right now, there isn't a Western release at this time. Honestly, I have to say, I'm not really offended with this game coming to the Nintendo Switch. Now, if they do enough that it has its own identity and all that, that's fine. As long as it's done so, excuse me. I mean, that's fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong drawing inspiration to the Breath of the Wild, but I also want to make sure it's its own game. Going back to the example I gave earlier, Darksiders, for example, it's still its own game. There's enough in there that it still is, but it also draws inspiration from Zelda, Devil May Cry, God of War, and so forth. So, I mean, as long as they do it that way, and come up with something original, and don't make it feel like it comes off as just a blatant copy of Breath of the Wild, then I'm okay with this. I'm okay with this game drawing inspiration from Breath of the Wild and so forth. So I'm not, especially as a longtime Nintendo fan, I'm not bothered by this as much as some out there are. Now, the developer, that's kind of interesting, because from what I understand, most of this developer has basically focused on just mobile games and all that stuff. So, excuse me, I'm a little iffy about it, but I will give them the benefit of the doubt and so forth, and we'll see how this one plays out. Maybe it may not be as bad as some out there make it sound like it is, but we'll have to wait and see. So, but I do hope that they do have a Western release for it, though, because I'm willing to try it out. So overall, the game that apparently had one person smash their PS4 and some calling it a blatant ripoff of Breath of the Wild, apparently is coming to the Nintendo Switch. And as a longtime Nintendo fan, I really don't have a problem with this title coming to the Nintendo Switch. I'm willing to try it out, assuming they have a Western release date in mind, though. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 5, and this one has to do with some unfortunate delays, including one big title that I was looking forward to coming out in April that unfortunately I believe now has been pushed back to September. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our 5th part of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at, unfortunately, it looks like we're going to be seeing some delays for at least 3 of the upcoming games that were supposed to come out earlier this year. Now, no one likes when certain games are delayed and all that stuff, and there are times, and I can understand that though, but sometimes a delayed game may not always be a bad thing. Sometimes that delayed game could actually be useful in terms of, polishing and fixing some areas that otherwise would have been an issue if the game was launched on its right time. The whole issue with the day one patch and all that. We saw that with games like WWE 2K20, where they just decided to launch that game rather than delay it and all that stuff. And, well, we all know how that turned out, to be exact. And while I understand some people will be upset with some of these delays, though, some of it is reasonable, but one in particular of a title I'm looking forward to recently now might have a new controversy with it in regards to this delay. We'll start off with the first one, and this came from The Verge, and it apparently has to do with Square Enix, and apparently it looks like Final Fantasy Remake and the Avengers game has now been delayed, though. Although the Final Fantasy VII Remake has now been delayed to April 10th, and the Avenger one has now been delayed to September 4th. According to the article, it reads that, quote, Square Enix has announced the delay for two of its most anticipated 2020 games. Final Fantasy VII Remake has been pushed from March 3rd to April 10th, while the upcoming Marvel's Avengers has been delayed from May 15th, to September 4th. Both games' development teams are explaining their respective delays as needed to give the developers more time to polish the gameplay experience, though. We are making this tough decision in order to give ourselves a few extra weeks to apply final polish to the game and deliver you with the best possible experience. The producer of the Final Fantasy VII Remake. I, on behalf of the whole team, want to apologize to everyone, as I know this means waiting for a game just a little bit longer. Thank you for your patience and continued support. Meanwhile, the head at Crystal Dynamics, that's working on the Avenger game, posted a similar statement regarding Marvel's Avengers, saying, we will spend this additional development time focused on fine-tuning and polishing the game to the highest standards our fans expected and deserve. So, the Final Fantasy one, although I'm not a big fan of the approach they're taking with it, the episodic approach though, the delay isn't as bad. I mean, yes, we're going to have to wait until April 10th to play it, but it's nowhere near the level of what the Avengers and even the Cyberpunk 2077, I'm going to get to that one in just a minute. For that one, for the Avengers one, let's just say the response to that one was not, well, mixed at best, as not everyone was a big fan of the character design and so forth. But, you know what? I'm going to give that game the benefit of the doubt. We'll see how that one turns out. But there are some concerns about it being a live service and all that stuff, and that, well, we've seen live services not exactly, the term doesn't exactly sit well with a lot of people. So we'll have to wait and see about that one, though. But who knows? It might actually be the Avengers one might actually end up being good. But as always, we'll have to wait and see. But the Final Fantasy VII one isn't as bad as it is. So you have to wait like another month or so. So, not nearly as bad. However, the one that I'm kind of disappointed, though, but not losing complete sleep over, is apparently Cyberpunk 2077 has now been delayed. On top of that, we now have an update that apparently the term that got a lot of controversy last year is supposedly crunch has now been added to it. From an article from Game Industry Buzz, it reads, quote, Cyberpunk 2077 has been delayed from its previous April release window to September 17th. CD Projekt Red's co-founder and studio head announced the news with a joint statement on the studio's official Twitter account today. We are currently at the stage where the game is complete and playable, but there's still work to be done, they said. Night City is massive, full of stories, content, and place to visit, but due to the sheer scale and complexity of it all, we need more time to finish playtesting, fixing, and polishing. We want Cyberpunk 2077 to be our crowning achievement for this generation, and postponing launch will give us the precious months we need to make the game perfect. Cyberpunk 2077 had its April release window in place since last year's E3, when it was announced at the Microsoft Xbox briefings by Keanu Reeves, who plays the character Johnny Silverhand in the game. The delay extends to what has already been a lengthy wait for those interested in Cyberpunk 2077, and then the debut trailer, the first teaser trailer for it debuted 7 years ago. And then they added an update to a term that obviously not everyone wants to hear, though, and that is, in a call with investors, the CD Projekt joint CEO confirmed that the studio staff have been required to crunch on the development of Cyberpunk 2077. During a call, one investor asked if the development team has been required to crunch, to which the CEO responded, "To some degree, yes, to be honest. We try to limit crunch as much as possible, but it is in the final stage. We tried to be reasonable in this regard, but unfortunately, yes." Last year, CD Projekt Red announced it was introducing a non-obligation crunch policy and asked developers to push back if the hours were too punishing them. Developers has also faced criticism previously over the working conditions, and in 2017 responded to a neglect of negative reviews on workplace review website Glassdoor. One person wrote at the time, "Crunch here is insane. We read about Bungie's crunch and Mass Effect Armada's crunch and laughed, and crunch will hit current projects hard because spreadsheet planning plus incomplete overseers, hence hormone bad back and depression." Now, I apologize if I'm not saying the word correctly though. This part, the part with the updates, the crunch does to some degree, while I'm still looking forward to the game, that part does bother me a little bit though. And because we've all saw what happened last year when the Kotaku report from Jason Schreier came out over the issue of crunch and how that affected Anthem and put that in a negative light. And that the whole crunch part does bother me a bit though. Look, I like video games as much as the next person, but I also have to understand that some of these people also have lives. They have like friends and families and all that stuff, and to hear something like this does worry me a bit though, and I'm just worried about that though. I mean, I understand that there's a reason why you maybe want to delay the game to, address some issues and all that stuff, but when you start hearing about the issue of crunch, it is a bit worrisome about this. Now, they're saying that they did the best they can to try to avoid the situation, though. At least that's what the CEO is saying, though. And they're saying we're trying to be reasonable in this regard, but it does worry me a little bit. The whole issue of crunch has really popped up, and I think that's the part that makes things a little bit worried about all of this, though. So overall, it is a little bit unfortunate that some of these games have been delayed, but it is also understandable, give some time to polish and all that stuff. So hopefully in the end, these products do turn out to be good. I understand the reasons for the delay, especially for Cyberpunk 2077, but with learning about the whole issue of crunch, yeah, that is something to be concerned about. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, but I can understand why some people are very concerned, especially after what happened last year with the whole situation with Anthem and so forth. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 6, our final part, and this one has to do with the NPD of December 2019. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our 6th and final part of our My 2 Cent video. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at the NPD, particularly December 2019, the last one before the new decade kick in, which is obviously January and so forth. And apparently this one ended with basically, as always, the Switch continues to do very well, but it looks as though, looking at the decade though, the PS4 was certainly a very dominant force and all that stuff. So at least according to 2 articles from Veteran Beat, they point out that the NPD group released its annual video game report in the United States and includes some tidbits for the last 10 years as well. For hardware though, Nintendo Switch was the #1 console of 2019, but for the 2010s, though, as a whole, PlayStation 4, PS4 outsold everything else. Nintendo Switch was the best-selling hardware platform of both December and 2019, the NPD announced, Matt said, while Sony's PS4 finished as the best-selling hardware of the decade. PS4 has surpassed 106 million consoles sold, which puts it ahead of the Nintendo Wii and PlayStation 3. But back in 2019, spending on hardware was down sharply in the US. Consumers are looking ahead for the PS5 and Xbox Series X, and the last year didn't have a massive release like Red Dead Redemption 2 to drive people to pick up new system. At this point, consoles have saturated on the market. Hardware spending in December 2019 declined 17% when compared to a year ago to $973 million. Annual hardware spending fell 22% to $3.9 billion. Nintendo Switch gains could not offset declines across other platforms. Hardware spending should continue to decline even compared to a weak 2019. Gamers have already had their hardware and are going to save their spare cash to put forward to the next generation, PS5 and Xbox Scarlet. To see the hardware decline isn't really new and all that stuff. More likely, though, this could probably change come holiday season when, obviously, the PS5 and Xbox Series X comes out. As far as the top games of December 2019, well, the big ones were Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019 and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order actually did very well. That entered in at number 2 on the best-selling games of December 2019. Not to mention more proof that linear or narrow-driven single-player games aren't dead, as one of the former heads of EA made that claim and all that stuff. Surprisingly, Nintendo has a lot of their games on this list as well. Luigi's Mansion was at number 5. Pokemon Sword is at number 6. Mario Kart 8 is at number 7. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is at number 8. Pokemon Shield is at number 9. And down already past at number 16, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. 17, Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. 18, New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. 19, Super Mario Party. And at number 20, Ring Fit Adventure. So it's kind of interesting on this list to see Luigi's Mansion 3 in some ways overtake Pokemon Sword and Shield to a certain degree. So that is kind of interesting, and I do hope this opens the door to the idea of maybe a Luigi Mansion 4 to be exact. Grand Theft Auto 5 on this list isn't surprising. Red Dead Redemption 2 isn't also surprising as well. I recently got back into that game and all that stuff. But to see Jedi Fallen Order do very well on this list of the top 20 best-selling games of December 2019, that certainly is a nice thing to see. Over at basically the best-selling Xbox One games, not one of them are in basically no first-party games or anything like that. All of them are third-party games. Basically, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019 is at number 1. NBA 2K20 is at number 2. Madden NFL 20 is at number 3. Borderlands 3 at number 4. Mortal Kombat 11 at number 5. They just recently did a trailer for the Joker that's going to be in it. Jedi Fallen Order at number 6. And basically have Kingdom Hearts 3 and Tom Clancy's The Division 2 in there as well. I think at number 8 and number 9. There's a typo on this for some reason. There's some bizarre typo. So there's that for the Xbox. PlayStation 4 in terms of best-selling games. Right now, only 2 games, first-party games, have made it onto the best-selling PS4 games for December. And that is at number 8, Death Stranding, and at number 9, Marvel's Spider-Man. So obviously, it's nice to see Death Stranding on this list, although it didn't make it into the top 20 best-selling games of December 2019. And The Outer Worlds is at number 10, still hanging on. Definitely a fun game, one of my favorites in 2019. Over at the Nintendo Switch, all of them is basically first-party games. Luigi's Mansion is at number 1, Pokemon Sword at number 2, Mario Kart 8 at number 3, Smash Bros. Ultimate at number 4, Pokemon Shield at number 5, Breath of the Wild at number 6, Link's Awakening at number 7, New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe at number 8, Super Mario Party at number 9, and Ring Fit Adventure at number 10. So the takeaway from this list is that, amazingly though, Or not surprisingly, Jedi Fallen Order is doing very well. That certainly has to put a smile on Respawn and even EA, that pretty much like written off single player games to be exact. Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, whether you love the series or not, continues to do very well and all that stuff. And Nintendo, surprisingly, the big surprise for me is seeing Luigi's Mansion 3 overtake Pokemon Sword and Shield. That's kind of interesting, though, considering the fact that at one point the Luigi Man series was often viewed as like kind of a niche series. So to see this game, the third one, take off is really nice. And like I said, I do hope that this opens the door for maybe a Luigi's Mansion 4 and all that stuff. So we'll have to wait and see if that even happens. So overall, for the closeout for the decade, though, for December 2019, obviously, Respawn has to be happy that Jedi Fallen Order has made it onto that list. Activision Blizzard, whether you love it or hate it, Call of Duty was the #1 best-selling game out there. And Nintendo's got to be happy with the fact that several of their games have made it onto the top list, including the one that is kind of a bit of a surprise, Luigi's Mansion 3, overtaking Pokemon Sword and Shield in a certain way. So overall, that's a very interesting list for December 2019. It'll be interesting to see what January 2020, the first one for the new decade, is going to be like. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about the decision from Microsoft that there won't be any exclusive at this time for the launch of Xbox Series X? Do you think this is a smart strategy that they're doing? Do you think this is a dumb idea? Do you think this could impact the launch of the Xbox Series X, or do you don't think this will have any impact at all? What are your thoughts about Sony skipping E3 altogether for this year? Do you think this is a smart move on Sony's part? Do you think this is a dumb move in any way? Do you think this is the beginning of the end for E3? What are your thoughts about the possibility that we could see the Bioshock series come to the Nintendo Switch? Are you pleased? Are you hoping this rumor is true? Would you like to see the Bioshock series come to the Nintendo Switch? Would you pick up the Switch version if that does happen? And what are your thoughts about the idea of Genshin Impact, if I'm saying the name correctly, the game that had one person break their PS4 in protest over? Are you looking forward to seeing this coming to the Nintendo Switch? Do you think they should bring this game to the West in any way? What are your thoughts about the delays of games like Final Fantasy VII, The Avengers, and Cyberpunk 2077? Are you disappointed to hear about these delays, though? Do you think these delays were expected? Do you think this is a good thing, that this will give developers time to iron out any parts that they need to? And the part about recently crunch time for Cyberpunk 2077, is that a concern in any way? Do you feel this could turn into what we saw last year with Anthem? And what are your thoughts about the NPD charts? Were you surprised by some of these games making it on the list? Were you not surprised at all to see, like, say, Call of Duty Modern Warfare become #1? Were you surprised to see Luigi's Mansion 3 overtake Pokemon Sword and Shield in any way? Do you agree with what I said? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And I hope you hit that like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to. And feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this video. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!